Hey, how you doing? Justin here, and today I'm going to share with you what I think is probably the most important exercise in this entire course. It is the 1 minute changes. We're going to pick two chords and change between them as many times as we can in 1 minute. Sounds pretty simple. Actually, it is a relatively simple exercise, but the benefits are huge. As I already mentioned, the first hurdle that beginners have is dealing with the finger pain. That's generally pretty horrible for a couple of weeks and gradually gets better. It should be pretty much gone after a couple of months, if not sooner. The next challenge is making the chord changes fast enough to be able to play a song, because you can't really play a song just with one chord. There might be a song here or there that's just one chord, but most songs have multiple chords, so learning to change between the chords is the thing that you need to be able to do to play any songs. It's also the fact that we count the changes in the 1 minute changes exercise is a fantastic motivational tool, because you actually get to see your progress. There's no question about it. Sometimes when you're learning guitar, it's like, oh, have I really got better? I've done all of this practice. But with 1 minute changes, because you're writing the number of changes down each practice session, you can see yourself go from like, I did 5 changes this minute, and then the next day I did 10, and then the next day I did 25, and it's quantifiable. It's a really fantastic motivational tool, so I definitely encourage you to be using the practice routine generator on my site, or the 1 minute changes counter in the app, or at the very least a piece of paper and a pen and writing down how many chord changes you do with each practice session. So I've already given you the idea. Right now we've only got 2 chords to change between, which is the A chord and the D chord. So the first thing I recommend you do is just actually make the chord changes a few times. So we're doing A to D today. It's the only 2 chords that we know. So just remembering to use the anchor finger there, just trying to get the chord nice and fresh before we go into doing the 1 minute changes. The object of the exercise of 1 minute changes is to do fast chord changes. They're allowed to be a little bit sloppy. I know this might seem a little bit weird, but the accuracy of the finger placement isn't the key thing. They should be on the right string and in the right fret. But the rest of it is kind of forgivable. If the notes aren't quite ringing out as clearly as you'd like or whatever, that's okay. That's why we do the chord perfect practice as well. So chord perfect practice is about making the chords sound really good. 1 minute changes is about making the changes really fast. And if you practice those 2 things separately, after a few weeks you'll find they start to come together, and you'll find that you're doing very fast and accurate chord changes. But in the initial stages, those 2 things might seem a little bit distant. So you're doing your 1 minute changes and you're like, oh, these chords aren't ringing out right, it's not good enough. It's okay. If you've got any doubt, go and watch my left-handed practice, the Nitsudge lessons, where I'm starting out doing these chord changes. It's a bit of a fumble fest. There's lots of duff notes coming out, and that's totally all right. So once you've got your fingers, they kind of know roughly where they're going to go. You're going to hit start on the timer, and then you're going to go do as many as you can. You're going to strum each chord, and you're going to count each time you do a chord change. I usually count the first one as well, so I'd hit start and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going through and counting out loud so that you can count your changes. Now, ideally, what we're looking for is a flow. So even if it's real slow, trying to get like a flow going from one chord to the next. Just so you've got like a pulse to it. Because once you've got a pulse, you can start trying to speed it up. Ideally, like the long-term thing I think is that you want to get to 60 changes in a minute. That's a chord change every second. For sure you won't be doing that in your first week. Okay, but that's, if you can do 60 chord changes of a particular pair of chords, I'd say you don't need to practice it anymore. Okay, so that's the object. To pass the first grade, I would usually say, and to get through this lesson, I'd say that you want to get up around 30 changes in a minute. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. up to 30. If you can get 30 changes done in a minute, that's enough to move on to the next lesson. To pass the grade out is 30, but really 60 is that's the target that you want to try and reach with all of the chord changes. You're going to find some chord changes harder than others. Of course, this week we've only got 1. But as we move on further down the course and we introduce more chords, there are more different changes. So you want to work on the ones that you're finding the hardest. Do let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with this. How many chord changes did you get through the very first time that you had a go at doing your 1 minute changes, and how fast did you progress? It's a really fun thing. Definitely if if you do it and you're feeling like, oh, I can't do it, I'm hopeless, go and watch me try it left-handed the first time. You'll see me struggle with it as well. It's dead normal. Just stick at it. Okay, that's the thing. A little practice often is the way forward in these beginner stages.